Groupings are very important. They help to improve overall relations. I mean, Asia is a very complex region with many issues. The big risk, obviously, is of a political nature as well. If economic integration and cooperation is not sufficiently supported, then private sector-led investment and improvements in governance will come to a halt. So all this is subject to a continuous political, peaceful, collaborative understanding where the benefits of cooperation are seen as being more important than old rivalry of the past. I was just at a meeting with China, Korea, and Japan executives against the backdrop of current issues in the South Chinese Ocean, where political emotions run very high over rocks. Or some people, of course, argue there may be more behind it. And the truth is that the corporate world has every interest in maintaining an open and good collaborative engagement across all countries. At the same time, people and their respective leadership still is trying to catch up with the past, and there's strategic rivalry going on as China is rising. The question is, what is its place in the world, and so forth. So the political security dimension is of utmost importance, and the peaceful future development of the region as a whole is critical for economic growth and development.
Not all the ASEAN countries have the same interests. Some have very strong interests. The Philippines have very strong interests. Vietnam has a very strong interest. Others don't have any direct interest in terms of the resources, but they have interest in terms of the waterways and movement. Others have a strong interest in the sense of keeping some kind of ASEAN unity. So they have a bit of a tension right now because some among them have a very strong view in terms of trying to establish a broader view, a view which is supportive of their interest. Others basically don't have or are not pushed to such a role. Now, China's position has been weakened by the fact it is seen as such a big player. It would like to do and negotiate and talk about the issue in terms of bilateral discussions. But everyone realizes that a bilateral discussion between China and any specific country is not a fair discussion. So they would argue that they need a more multinational approach. They'd be very happy to have the U.S. involved in some way. China obviously does not want such an involvement. Now, I think the Chinese leadership also realized that their claims against this whole area of the South China Sea, most of them would say it's not that we would like or we believe that we have rights to the whole area, but they would say we have substantive rights or a lot of rights, undefined. So I don't know how you're going to get around this area because China has basically established this principle. Let's talk about it bilaterally, not multilaterally, but most of the ASEAN countries are saying we need to look at this as a group. So you have a bit of a stalemate over here, and I don't know how that stalemate is going to break out.
China will be a very compelling, by far going to be the most compelling economic story in the world. Is going to be the Chinese growth story. Even though the U.S. will be in many ways a more attractive market to be in for the long term, China will be the more compelling story. And in Asia, the attraction of the economic pull from China will be overwhelming. So any country in Asia, if it has the ability to benefit from Chinese economic largesse, will do so. So, you know, to say that these countries in ASEAN are going to be able to really move away from China's really speaks against everything that's going to be happening economically in this part of the world. The question will be, how well will they be able to have their own type of development in a way that they consider to be useful and independent of China, given that Chinese influence over them economically and therefore politically will be vastly greater?
We view on two things, that is Asia as a partner and second as a long-standing, long-serving partner. So that means that we don't really look those countries as only manufacturer or consumer. It is a partner, so we will enjoy partnership in asking them to manufacture together with us, and division of labor in a way, and also as a consumer where they would import Japanese goods, but more now Japanese would supply parts, and then they would assemble or make a final product from some of our parts. That's the pattern of trade now.
Myanmar has been left behind, has been closing the door for 50 years. So from now on, we just open the door, we're just inviting all the foreign investment to be in our country. So in 5 years, 10 years down the road, I think we should contribute a lot of things. We can be a pillar of the ASEAN development also, because a lot of interest, a lot of focus, a lot of interest has been given by the whole world that Myanmar is start opening. So we might be able to contribute a lot to the ASEAN. After AEC, also we can contribute a lot in every sectors. The disparity, I think, exists. Since we closed the door for 50 years, there's a developing country already among the ASEAN, like Singapore, Malaysia, well developed. And the other, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, also in a developing. And then we are just the emerging country. So the disparity will keep us lag behind the competition among the ASEAN members, I think.
In the last few years, we've even seen more and more free trade agreements proposed or signed between the nations of Southeast Asia as a whole, between the Association of Southeast Asia and, say, European countries. There have been free trade agreements between Australia and New Zealand and ASEAN. There have also been free trade agreements between Korea and the ASEAN region. As ASEAN moves forward, trade will be increasingly important to them as their economies continue to grow and develop.
If you look back at the history, growth in human history, civilization comes from the interaction of cultures. It comes from taking an idea in one culture and then expressing it in a new culture. It takes the idea such as the printing press that was developed for the Chinese language, and then suddenly you're writing books in Latin. It takes the ideas of making maps in one country and using them in another country, using one religion and transferring it to a new ground. And in the new ground, it grows in a different way, and it blooms in a different way. Throughout history, all civilization has been advanced through meeting of people. When people are in isolation, they wither, they die. You leave a person alone by themselves on the step, they will soon be gone. It's through human interaction that we are humans. And Asia and Europe are the two greatest civilizations of world history. Their coming together has helped to create this modern world. Their continuing to work together can create a future that overcomes some of the past problems that the Asians and the Europeans and the other people of the world have created.
Asia is changing. It's growing, expanding, and exploding. Sometimes there are just not enough adjectives to describe the monumental transformation. But Asia is not just about numbers. Behind the headlines are people, everyday people. They are living, they are enjoying the process and wondering what it'll mean to them. And this is a good question for everyone to ask, since the changes in Asia won't just affect people in Thailand or Malaysia, China or Japan. No, the changes will impact everyone in the world.
In this ancient land, I see the future.
Asia is rising, but it doesn't mean that there aren't persistent challenges to Asia's growth. From poor infrastructure to burgeoning populations, to really, the challenges of people demanding for freer economies, the opportunity to speak up more. These challenges persist in Asia. I'm confident, though, that the leaders of Asia will really do what's right to move their region forward.
I think it's a real opportunity. I think as the more developed parts of ASEAN continue to grow, that naturally spills over. You will see opportunities, it's a good influence, the connectivity, but it's important to all of us, and it's an opportunity we shouldn't miss.
Asia's in a really, really good place for the next explosion of growth.
This is our time. This is Asia Rising.